Everyone's always like, where are your glasses from? I need like the ID. And I was like, girl, you can't get this in the store. They're custom.
Hello, welcome back to the Fashion Nap. Today I am here with Elysia Berman, creative director and the queen of your For You page if you're on Fashion Talk. So, how are you?
I'm good. Doing well.
My nails are absolutely busted, by the way, so just,
Mine are
just
too, don't
get that out of the
worry.
way. I keep gesturing, I'm like, oh. We always start at the beginning here, so let's ask a classic question, which is what's your earliest fashion memory?
Oh my God. Okay. So I have always been very like particular about what I wear and like what I'm comfortable in. And when I was going to, it was either first grade or kindergarten, I insisted on wearing like the most over the top red polka dot dress. It had lace gloves and like a matching hat. It was like my Easter dress. Um, I'm Jewish, but like I had one because of my stepfather, whatever. It was like my Easter dress, and I loved it. And I was like, I'm gonna wear this to first grade. So I went to my first day of school in like the most over the top, like prissy little dress. And then I got ink on one of my gloves in class, and I came home and I was like crying because I had ink on my hand and like ruined one of my gloves.
I love it. I feel like a red polka dot is such a classic choice as well.
Yeah.
Timeless.
Actually, I have an even earlier one, like earlier fashion memory. My best, like my childhood best friend had the most amazing like dress up collection. She had all these like incredible vintage dresses from like an antique shop, whatever. And I dressed up in one and wore it to the gas station to go get a Sprite.
I thought you were gonna say it like got gas on it or like some
Oh, I
horrible
was just
story. Then you
like,
scared me.
I was so it just I feel like it's like I was very much like an extra dresser from like age 4 on. I was like, I don't really understand the concept of like what's appropriate for what environment. So I just am gonna go gung ho and wear what I want. But that's
Love
pretty
it.
much who I am.
I love that you showed up and you made your first impression at first
Yeah,
grade. Like this is me, Easter dress, take it or leave it. Like I'm here, lace
exactly.
gloves. Let's learn. But the way I found your content was through last year's No Buy, and I feel
Mhm.
like that's what a lot of people know you for and have been following this journey. For anyone that doesn't know, you didn't buy anything for the whole of last year, and I think you're doing it again.
Yeah, I have to do it again now. I was like, maybe I'll stop once my debt's gone, but like now that I don't have a job, I'm like, I might as well just continue.
So you
So
cleared the debt.
what?
Did you clear the debt already?
No, I have, let's see. So I started at $48,000 and it's down to, I think it's like 13 and a half, 14. It's under 14.
That's very good.
I know, it's like kind of insane. And then by the end of April, I'll be down to like 5,000, and then by the end of June, I'll be done. But my hope is to like get it done earlier. But now that TikTok's going away, possibly, and I lost my
It's not.
job,
I'm gonna
like
manifest it. It's not. I feel like it's gonna stay. So prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
that's my mentality. Like prepare for the worst, hope for the best. But
But let's
I
back up a little bit because the listeners may not know what even is the no buy. We're just assuming, right? So
right.
could you explain the no buy to me? Like I'm an
Yes.
alien.
So basically, for those of you who are listening who aren't familiar with my content, I have a raging shopping addiction. I have a penchant for expensive footwear, and I have a huge beauty collection. But my area of focus was definitely on clothing. I have a really wonderful closet that I love. It's full of treasures that I paid dearly for. Um, and last year, I realized that my debt got so bad that I was kind of like facing bankruptcy if I didn't get my act together. And so I elected to do a no buy year to kind of like challenge myself. And I didn't initially start out on TikTok. I think I only had like 150 followers, but I was posting as sort of like a visual diary, journal, whatever, just to hold myself accountable. Because I didn't really know if there was like an Alcoholics Anonymous equivalent for shopping addiction. But yeah, it was just kind of a means of like holding myself accountable. And then all of a sudden it just sort of blew up and caught on. And now then I really had to stick to it. But the no buy basically, I'm not buying any clothes, I'm not buying any makeup. I'm not buying books because I have tons behind me that I need to read.
Mhm.
Um, And I have a bunch of other rules. I have them outlined on my Instagram, but no takeout, avoiding Ubers, just kind of trying to be mindful about my spending in general. Because I spent 12 years not being mindful about my spending. So I really just was using last year to rewrite a lot of financial wrongs.
And at what point did people kind of like start taking interest in the journey? Was it quite quick, or was it just like one video that kind of?
It was the first month, no interest whatsoever because I didn't know how to film. I didn't know. I got a light. I got like the Alex Earl light or whatever. But I still didn't really understand like people want you to talk. And also when you're first filming content, no one gives a shit about you whatsoever. No one knows who you are. No one cares. So if you're going to make content for people, it has to be of value to them. It either has to be informative or entertaining. And so I was like, okay, let me try entertaining because I know that I'm entertaining. And I really let my like personality shine through. I think my first video was me talking just my empties. Like I was just talking about my empties. And I think empties hadn't really been a thing. It was like a YouTube thing, but like people hadn't really seen it on TikTok. And then the next day I was like, let me see if I can replicate this success based on like my newfound theory. And so I was able to do it again. But that video I was doing, what did I do? It was like all of the beauty products that I bought when I was a shopping addict.
Right.
It sort of evolved from there because I realized I couldn't keep up just showing my beauty collection. Like it was boring and repetitive. Like people were like, how do you afford all this? Whatever. And then I started talking about my debt. Once I confessed that and like confessed, like, hey guys, I'm not actually into beauty, I'm into fashion. And I've been hiding my closet from you. And like that's really when it started taking off. Was when I
That's
started.
so funny, isn't it? That like you have this insane wardrobe that people are so interested in. And it's always like when it's your life, you're like, Maybe I'll just talk about makeup. You don't even
Yeah,
think
I was
like,
like
at the
hiding it.
start, you're kind of like, oh, like it's always like the most glaringly obvious thing that you would want.
Right. And it was literally until like say I started posting in January, it wasn't until like April that I was talking about like it was like 4 months of posting that before I talked about like my fashion and my clothing. And I had a friend that I made on this app like who's now a big beauty content creator, but she was like, "Yeah, when I think of you, I don't think of beauty, I think of fashion." Like as like person to person in real life, she was like, "I think of fashion because you always show up in these crazy outfits." So I was like, well, why don't I just post about that? And then it just evolved from there.
I have a question that I was thinking about last night, but I don't know how to word it. So let me see if you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because your wardrobe is insane, and I like watching your videos when you're showing like this piece and that piece and those Chanel boots that I used to repost
Oh
on
my
Twitter all the
God,
time.
those
Oh my
boots.
God. Like you have so many pieces that people are so interested in, and you speak so entertainingly about them, as you said. Um, so there's that. And then there's the shopping addiction videos.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel pressured or tempted to buy new stuff to talk about because you know the videos will be good? Because I know all of my like content creator
Yeah.
friends, we're all guilty of justifying buying something for I can use it in a video. And I
So
wonder
you
because
know
people are
what?
so like, are people more like,
I know what you're
does the
saying now.
support of the no shopping outweigh the interest in your taste?
So I am the reason I'm like able to be adherent to my no buy is I'm genuinely terrified of the consequences of like lying to my audience because people are smarter than we give them credit for. Most people will be like, that's current season. Like I got a Jean-Paul Gaultier top for Christmas because my dad was like, you haven't bought anything this year. Like, let me get you something for Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever. I sent him my Essence wish list and I was like, these three are my top priority. And he like bought me those three things, which
Oh,
like I'm very blessed. But so I had this like Jean-Paul Gaultier top on, and someone was in my comment section was like, that's current season, girly. Did you break your no buy? And I was like, no, it was a Christmas gift.
okay, I can see that actually. I can see knowing how
Yeah.
TikTok people are. Okay, that makes more sense.
But that said, fashion is something that I'm always going to be interested in. And, I don't think the expectation for me of myself is to like never shop again. I
Hmm.
think, you know, for me, it's to live with the closet that I have. After my no buy, I will definitely be shopping again. Like, let's be clear. And I'll probably break my no buy this year. Like, I will probably, if I get a new job, I will probably treat myself to like a nice something or other. I
Well,
will
you've
probably,
done. well, so I feel like you deserve to break it
Exactly.
once. Not that
I
I'm being
probably
a Disney
deserve
brat
it.
here,
I
but
will probably treat myself to something once my debt's gone. I will probably treat myself to something, next year or like later in the year if I travel. Like, I don't know what the future holds. I also like am not 100% perfect. I'm human. So like like slipping up is an inevitability, but I think like there's definitely temptation to buy stuff, but I think for me, like letting my audience down, like the fear of
Mhm.
them like coming for me just kind of keeps me in line. But more importantly, like I don't want to let myself down, you know? Like I just know that I have this debt to pay off. I know that I have these financial goals I want to hit. And anything I buy, like I don't get as excited about it anymore because I know I want to like do these other things and
Mhm.
any gets in the way of that. But I bought myself these like fabulous Margiela shoes for my birthday, and I don't feel any guilt about those, but I was like allowed to buy them, you know?
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
It definitely does because, yeah, I guess if your audience, a lot of them came to you through the no buy, then they're also invested, and people
Yeah.
love to tell you when you've done something wrong on TikTok. So I'm sure they're
Oh
waiting
my
for you to
God.
break
They
it.
love it.
So that makes sense
They're
because
like,
I was just intrigued if I know how it can be. I know how it can be
oh yeah,
for
I
sure.
know exactly what you're saying. Like, it's like, oh, well, I can buy this and like use it for content. I can buy this and like
Yeah,
film an outfit with it or whatever. Like, I totally get that. I think like in the future that might be the case, but I
don't do
gotta
it
rein my
because
spending
it's
in. I gotta rein it the
both.
fuck in.
I'll tell you that. I don't do that anymore. Now when I'm trying to justify making a purchase, like that is not a factor that flies anymore. I can't be like,
Yeah.
oh, like it.
Yeah.
No, you can't. You could,
I
but
also
you can't.
realized that
It's
like
not.
you can't I like a lot of people think that influencers write off their clothing and stuff like that.
Mm-mm.
You can't write off your clothes and your taxes. Like it doesn't work that way.
You can, I don't know how it is in the States, but over here you can if it's something that you can prove like you would only wear for work, like if it's like a uniform.
Yeah.
But that is why the band ABBA dressed like that, because they were allowed to write off all their costumes only
Oh
if they
my
were so ridiculous
God.
that they could show them to the tax man and be like, this isn't day wear. So that's why they wear those like crazy
That
catsuits,
is
like,
so funny.
outfits. Yeah,
Maybe
that's
that
one of my
explains why
favorite.
Liberace wore like all the
It
sequins.
might be because yeah, you
Yeah,
have to be able to prove that it's like
it's the
not
same in the
real
States.
life clothing.
Yeah, in the States, it's like the only people who can write off clothing are like construction workers and like doctors. Like
Hmm.
you can't write off the average person can't write off clothing.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice
yeah.
and hard though.
But it's like an interesting discussion because it's like, okay, like technically they are costumes, but there are people that do dress that over the top. Can they just write
Yeah.
off the taxes? Like, where does it end? What were the learnings from your first year of no shopping?
I'm less dependent on shopping than I thought I was. I okay, so this is also super strange and I'm neurodivergent, so like people may not relate to this or understand this, but so I used to feel really like guilty and shameful for like having pieces in my closet that I wasn't wearing. I felt like I was like neglecting them emotionally. It was a really bizarre feeling. I was like, oh, like this thing, like she hasn't gotten her moment or whatever. And like I used to feel that all the time. It was like a very strange anxiety that I had about like neglecting my clothes. I don't have that anymore because I think what I realized is that like that anxiety was coming from I was constantly bringing in new stuff and it was happening at such a frequent rate that like I wasn't able to appreciate anything in my closet. So like stuff began to hold less meaning for me. And now I'm able to like appreciate everything in my closet. And it's like, if I have something that I haven't worn in a while, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not buying anything new. So I'll still have opportunities to wear that thing. Not only that, but like the cost per wear on all my clothes has gone down, like, because I'm
Mm.
wearing them all more. Um, but yeah, I now get enjoyment out of seeing my products become like used up and finished and cast out and recycled. I get joy out of seeing like a new hole in my sweater because I'm repairing it and like taking care of it. It means I'm wearing it and using it. I think like I'm seeing the beauty in wearing our clothes and like seeing how our clothes exist in our life. I think a lot of times people just like get hung up on the newness aspect. And
Mhm.
I think fashion itself, like let's look at how quickly they're putting out collections. It's like there's like 5 or 6 a year now.
Insanity, honestly.
It's insane. And it's like, it's unsustainable for the creatives working on the collections. It's unsustainable for the people buying the collections. It's unsustainable for retailers who are selling the collections. And it's unsustainable for the environmental like impacts of it as well. So, I think people and fashion are like very hung up on newness. And through my no buy year, I've just kind of realized like how much better life is when you let go of the notion of newness and like find beauty in the old. And like I think re-wearing things from like 15 years ago, 10 years ago is like super chic. Um,
100%.
and I think also the resurgence of Y2K fashion and like it feels different than vintage. Like it feels more like a status symbol, having archival fashion pieces, having like a Miu Miu 1997 runway look, like all of those things, like it feels like the new status symbol to me versus like whatever Gucci like just sent down the runway. Like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, there's that element of like rarity and like, oh, like you can't find this because I guess if it's something's current season, the only barrier is it being expensive
price.
versus these
Exactly.
things might be expensive and one of a kind, or there were only this many
Yep.
made, or you can't find it, or of
Yeah. And I think like, I'm a fashion girl. I like having unique stuff that no one else has. Like, come
course.
on, who doesn't? But I think for me, like the reason those boots are so special is because that's something that I've wanted forever that like I was never able to afford and still could not afford if I hadn't found them for like 850, 900 euros in a vintage store in Paris, like randomly on one Tuesday. Like it
Mhm.
was super like kismet and it felt very meant to be. And I think now what I've learned is that like through my no buy year, I'm not willing to shell out for just like anything. If I want to bring a purchase into my closet, it has to like add value to my life in a way that like those shoes did, where it's kind of this like very special piece that I can cherish for years to come. It's like you feel less guilty about the money you spent in those instances.
Definitely, definitely. Like, yeah, 100%. I was just filming a video today. I'm doing like a series of like analyzing my own wardrobe, not other people's. And it was actually quite nice to look down memory lane at like, because I was trying to find all the pictures of all the times that I'd worn. I was doing it like in categories. So the first
I
one is
love
suit.
that.
So I was trying to find like all the pictures of me wearing certain suits and like where I wore them. And it was so nice to like remember, like, oh yeah, and here and here. And I styled it that way and I styled it this way. Um, and one of them, like I forgot how expensive it was. It isn't like crazy expensive, but it's more expensive than all the other ones. And I was like, oh yeah. And I've really just been wearing that thing to the ground and like flinging it on my jeans. But that's like the beauty of it, like you're saying. It's the
Yeah.
kind of like it's such a cliche, but it's like the life that you have in the clothes. You're very, very transparent about shopping addiction, and of course, like we've talked about it quite lightheartedly up until this point of the interview. But I feel like it is a serious thing. How
Mhm.
has that experience been being so open with people? Because with TikTok, it's like one video, then another video. It's quite like fast output, and I guess it escalates quite quickly how much you're sharing. Like, how has
Yeah.
that been?
There's a limit to what I'll talk about, and there's
Mm.
definitely like a barrier between me and my audience that like I won't cross. Like people don't need to know about like childhood trauma and things like
Yeah.
that. Like I don't really feel the need to get into that. So, I think with the addiction aspect of it, I haven't even talked about like other addictions that like,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? So like it's very surface level, but I would say that opening up, I really dipped my toes in. It was kind of like little by little. And then I was really scared to let the cat out of the bag because I think like I always said, I remember when I first confessed my debt, I said I have 5 figures of credit card debt. I
Right.
didn't say the total amount. Um, and then finally I like came clean because people were like, what do you mean by 5 figures? That could be like 10,000 and that's like not that much. And I was like, no, I
Imagine
actually,
asking someone that.
I know. Imagine like asking someone that. It's ridiculous. But so I was kind of like, I sort of thought like, your secrets are your sickness. And if you just confess them, like you can move on. And so eventually I was like, you know what, fuck it. Like I can talk about debt in a really open and transparent way. You know, there's no shame associated with it. It's something that I'm working through. Let me share it in a very transparent and honest way. And like I thought that people were going to be, I was really afraid that like the Dave Ramsey, Caleb Hammer, like finance
Of
bros were going
course.
to come for me. And that wasn't the case at all. Actually, what it was like a lot of middle-aged or older women who have been through what I've been through who were so supportive. Like the amount of support that I got was just truly on another level. And I think at the end of the day, like I have a lot of people that some of my audience, like totally disengaged, doesn't give a fuck about me, doesn't know who I am, whatever. Like there's 170,000 of them. That's not, they can't all care about me. But I would say that there's like a core group that like genuinely are with me until my debt's gone. Like they want to see me get out of debt. They want to see me succeed because like my experiences mirror their own. And if
Mhm.
I can fix my situation, they can fix theirs. So it's it's been really like, and now I talk about it freely because like I have nothing left to lose. I've already said everything. But I think it's been really helpful for me to come clean and be honest about it and confess it to the world. And I think it's been helpful for others. Like other people tell me that like they felt inspired to confess their debt to their partners and talk about their shopping addiction in therapy. And like, people are like, I've paid off $15,000 in credit card debt this year because of you. And like, I'm like, girl, I wish I could say the same. Like, I wish I was debt free. But me sharing my story has helped others, and that's really helped me feel like less shame and feel better about coming clean, you know?
That makes sense. And I think it's really healthy that you do keep like a barrier and don't feel like you have to share. Because I was worried that, you know, when there's so many people asking questions that you feel like, oh, you see a lot of content creators sometimes be like, oh, I owe my audience this and I owe people answers. I was
Yeah.
just, I think it is good to make sure you don't
Yeah.
feel.
You have to have, especially with social media, there has to be a degree of like self-preservation. Like I will touch on like my struggles with weight. I'll touch on like my autism and like how it affects me. Like I will touch on those things. I will kind of like talk about them in the most superficial way possible, but like those things don't define me. So like why would I let them and why would
Yeah.
I let other people let those things define me? So I do kind of keep I try it's a delicate balance because I try and be as like open and honest as possible. But there are things I won't even tell my friends. So like why would I tell them to the internet? Uh like I didn't even tell my friends about my debt. They found out about it from TikTok. So
Could you
it's like,
imagine? Well, you don't have to imagine you lived it, but scroll.
yeah.
Huh? Is that?
Everyone was like, what?
You were
Yeah.
like, oh no, it was a bit. It was a bit. The TikTok
Yeah,
was
I
funny.
made it up. It's a lie. I don't have any debt.
What's your favorite piece in your wardrobe?
Oh man. That's like asking like what my favorite pet is or what my favorite child is. I don't have children, but I feel like I would have a favorite child if I had children. So,
Everyone would.
I'm the
I only
favorite.
have one, so I can say that. I can't imagine, like, if having another one that they'd be as good.
The opener is not as good as like the headliner act, but I feel like I'm the firstborn child. It's difficult to top the
Oh,
first one. But anyway, so for favorite piece of my wardrobe, I think weirdly, I have these like Anda Mulemeister trousers. They're so basic. They're just like a simple black trouser, but I love how like the material falls. I love how they fit. I love how they go with everything in my wardrobe. And because they're kind of this like, they're a wool material, but it's this really like gorgeous, like almost liquidy wool. And they just kind of like flow. And I love the way they move. And so they're definitely a favorite of mine. Um, I think also my other favorite, I have this like 2002 Galliano era Dior bag that it's just like the most versatile, comfortable shoulder bag, and it has just the like right amount of edgy hardware and detailing. It's still like timeless and a classic shape, but it's like feminine. It has this like corsetry detail. It's just like very beautiful. Um, can I just give you like all my favorites by
Yeah,
category?
yeah, 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 go for
The
it.
Anna Muehlmeister trousers, the
Hmm.
door bag, my favorite jacket. I have this like 2014 Dries Van Noten jacket that's like got all these buttons and like it kind of looks like a straight jacket slash like doublet. It's just like very over the top and extra.
Hmm.
So I love that. And then I have this Anna Muehlmeister dress that is just like it's backless and it's like this really gorgeous waterfall effect on the back. It's like this really simple silk little black dress, but it's like I just can't wait to wear it this summer. I think it's so gorgeous. And then my favorite boots are my R13 boots. Like they're just basic combat boots or tabbies. I love my tabbies, but I think the R13 combat boots are like such an elevated staple in my closet. And I feel like they really define who I am as like a person.
Yeah, you've got a very like cohesive style, I feel like.
Yeah. I'm like if you I'm like I grew up kind of just like a little punk kid
Mhm.
who was interested in fashion, was like obsessed with Vivienne Westwood and like the Antwerp Six and Margiela, and like I kind of loved that side of fashion from a really early age. Like I've always been into the punk sensibilities of that like Rei Kawakubo and Yohji Yamamoto have. Like they very much were like the renegades of fashion. And I think like my style tries to emulate that and those sensibilities as much as possible. But I'm also very realistic about who I am. Like I'm never gonna wear heels. I have to be comfortable. I try not to, my style is not aspirational. Like I'm not an aspirational dresser. I'm very like realistic about who I am and what my life is. So I feel like those pieces
Complete
reflect
opposite. Completely delusional,
that.
never comfortable, always regretting what I've put on, but I just can't stop.
You have to slay. You were born to slay.
This is what I wanted to ask you about actually, because I was watching one of your videos the other day and you were talking about how when you were in your shopping addiction, it kind of tied in with the fact that your style was catering more to like impressing other people and I guess
Mhm.
status and like looking like this certain archetype of like what it means to be a fashion girl. And now you've completely shed that and you just dress for yourself. What were
Yeah.
the key differences in the look?
Oh God. So I had this like beige phase, which I know like I wear so much black, it's difficult to imagine. My friends still make fun of me. It's like there was one summer in the pandemic where I was like I had been dressing in like a sweatshirt and gym leggings for 2 years or a year. And then
Mhm.
things started to open back up and I was like, well, I have no fucking clothes. And also I gained a bunch of weight, so like nothing fit in my closet. And I really had to like kind of buy new stuff and figure out like, but I had no clue what I liked. And I hadn't like I talk about all the time, like you can't have style if you don't get dressed. Like I didn't have style for like 2 years because I wasn't getting dressed. And like styling your clothes is a muscle that you have to exercise and you can get out of shape. Like you can lose that ability. And it was really funny because I think even before the pandemic, like I was wearing jeans and like a black turtleneck, which is like quintessential basic millennial outfit. I would put my own spin on it and like wear all my chains. Like that's something that's been authentic to my style for years. But I would just wear fabulous shoes, but I would kind of like go I had some like Sandy Lang pieces. I had some like, opening ceremony things. Opening ceremony was my favorite store. So I want to give myself some credit. There was like a bit of edge, like there was just the right amount of edge for me, but like, I was still figuring out where I wanted to go in my career, so I was afraid to like go full like really commit to the bit. So it was like this style where I would kind of like put one foot in either direction and it just didn't know what it wanted to be. And my beige phase occurred. I just bought like beige linen jumpsuits. Like literally, I was into like sustainability and fashion. So I was
Mhm.
like finding these small, ethical like designers and whatever. And everything they made was fucking beige. And so I just had this like beige house and like beige clothes. And my friends wore beige. So I was like, well, if they're doing it, like I must be doing something. And I hated it. I had no identity. I had no sense of like, I never felt good in my clothes. And then I bought these Kermit the Frog green button down shirts because I saw them on TikTok. Even my wedding, like when I look back on my wedding, it's like so not me. Like I wouldn't design it like that this time around. Like I would do obviously a black dress. I would wear
Mm.
like Rick Owens. Like I would do some like crazy over the top, like completely impractical fashion moment. But I really like I think there was always this like theoretical awareness and knowledge of fashion that I'd studied in college. And then there was like how I was dressing, and the two were not meshing. And now they're much more like integrated.
It's
So
good
I,
when you find your rhythm.
and like I'm really clear on what will and will not work for me. I'm really clear on like how I do and like do not want to dress. And I think like, doing my no buy year, if I'm gonna break my no buy, like I have really strict filters that I run things through, and that kind of helps curb my spending. I don't wear color. I wear red. I'll wear red or plaid. Like I'll do that. But I know that I don't wear color, so that's one filter. I know that I don't even really wear white. Like I just wear
Mm.
black. Um, I know that like I love a mini skirt, love a mini skirt. I know that I love a baggy pant. Um, I'm now like experimenting with like a slinkier silhouette, but I don't really like anything too bodycon. I'm doing a lot of Pilates though, so like that might change.
Loading.
Uh, like uh nothing too sporty, although like nothing too streetwear sporty. Like I'm not like I have like these camo pants that like I never really feel like myself in. I don't like sneakers. Like I have these rules that I know, and I'm like if I do buy sneakers, they're like very much more, they're like more of like a fashion shoe than like sporty. Um, and like, yeah, so having those filters that I run things through, I feel like I wouldn't have figured what those are though without the shopping addiction. So in like some ways, I'm grateful that I had it because now I have really good style and a killer wardrobe.
Well, you have to put a positive spin on it somehow, right? Like,
Right. What's funny is the one thing that my viewers say is they're like, you didn't have debt. It's like a one-time lump sum payment for like your dream closet.
well, yeah, it's like you've bought your wardrobe in advance for your whole life, and now you're just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
paying it
Now
off
it's
like it's
like,
like a student loan or something.
yeah, exactly. It's like I went to fashion university for the past 4 years and like, I've emerged on the other side um with a killer closet and, you know, followers, but and no debt, less debt. I think also another thing about that is like a lot of people, especially in my comment section, have described this, and I've certainly experienced this, but like trying to like buy your identity through purchases. I think a lot of people don't know who they are. And so they like try to buy an identity. And it's like very hard to do. It's impossible to do, but capitalism has taught us that like you're one purchase away from your like ideal self. And so like we're always kind of looking for that one thing that's going to
Mm.
complete our wardrobe. And it's like if we're always looking, if we're always looking ahead, we're never looking at like what we actually have. And I think
It's so
like,
true.
and I think also like seeing other people see my content and like look at my closet and be like, holy shit, I would kill for that. Like it helps me appreciate what I have because I never saw it that way. And like I'm kind of able to like view myself through the eyes of others, which sounds really weird and narcissistic, but like that extra layer of perspective has allowed me to like appreciate what I have and have a lot more gratitude for like which makes you want less stuff. You're like, oh, I don't need to buy stuff because I already have like a killer wardrobe.
Yeah, definitely. It's just so interesting. I love hearing like how other people approach their wardrobe and approach their own style and like approach shopping. It's just really interesting to hear you talk about it and talk about your likes and dislikes.
I am a fashion girly at heart. If you get me in a store, it's like this manic, like my friends, like my one friend Danielle who lives in London actually, like when we used to go shopping together, people would like it was like a manic episode came over us because we're like, oh my God, look
Hmm.
at this. I'm gagged. Like we were freaking out. And it's like what I'm realizing is that like I get that same enjoyment out of fashion without buying anything. I can walk into Selfridges, have a fucking field day, and leave there with nothing, you know? And it's like
Mhm.
still an amazing time. Harrods, I hate. I hate Harrods, but
See, I
Selfridges,
used to
I
hate
love.
Harrods. I used to hate Harrods. I never went there. I would go to Selfridges. I would never go that far to go to Harrods. It was just like not my thing. And then one day I was out with my friend. We were at Leomi Anderson, the model, had like a wardrobe sale.
Mhm.
I didn't buy anything actually, but it was just fun to see what her wardrobe was like. So we went to that, and then it was raining so hard. We were like, where should we like take refuge? And we were right next to Harrods. So we stumbled in, and I didn't realize there was a Schiaparelli in Harrods. Wow. That is like my version of going to the Tate. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
so
I
now
feel
I know there's a Schiaparelli in there. I'm always like, okay, every couple of maybe every season I'll have to stop by and have a look at the Schiaparelli and just like touch it a little bit. And like it's one of those shops where like the women that work there, they know that no one is really buying anything because it's just
yeah.
like maybe like every like 200th customer might buy something because it's just
And
so
if they buy stuff, it's
expensive.
like $50,000 worth of stuff.
Right.
Like it's
It's like
crazy.
there's no like small purchase. It's all like you're buying everything, you're buying nothing. So yeah, now I will go to Harrods once in a while because they have Schiaparelli.
Yeah. Like when I was there, it was Christmas. It was a
Oh God.
nightmare.
Oh,
And then, but I did see Paul Hollywood twice with his like Christmas shopping with his wife or girlfriend or mistress. I don't know who she was. I think it was wife, I'm assuming. But like I freaked out. I was like, I saw his like piercing blue eyes and I was like, Paul Hollywood, like losing my mind. But no, Harrods, I feel like Selfridges is more like my vibe. I also
me
love
too.
there's a store in Soho. And I think they have other locations, obviously, but Annie's Ibiza. Oh my God, that store. Everything's like beaded and like sparkly and has like feathers. Like I feel like it's just the epitome of like London girl fashion.
It's so
Um,
funny that you think that because that's not how we dress.
everyone's like, it's so basic.
But do you follow them on Instagram?
Annie's Ibiza. I
Yeah.
wait, so is they like are they based in Ibiza? Because I have no
Yeah,
clue.
Beta and London. So I think she has a store in both, the girl Annie. But do you follow them on Instagram?
No, I need
You need
to.
to. Oh, I'm gonna have to DM you one. They like do these videos that I'm obsessed with, where they have like the same few models. I feel like they're just like her friends, but they're really like serious looking, like really hot models. And then they just get them to like walk down the street, but it's not like a normal model walk. It's like a music video. Like
Oh
they're like
no.
walking, and there's always like kind of like some old rock song like over the
It's like
video.
so
They're like
extra.
spinning and like doing a little hop, and it's just like so they crack me up, but they are good social content.
Yeah.
But like the Annie's Ibiza video is just like you need
It's
to
so
when you
much.
watch them, you'll see what I'm saying. They're just so over the top, but I love
Yeah. And I feel like it's so one thing I've learned this year is that like I get so much joy from fashion. Like I went to a fashion show for the first time and I was like, oh my fucking God. It was like the energy was like intoxicating.
What show was it?
It was Peter Doe
Okay.
in Paris Fashion Week, and it was like absolutely intoxicating. I've only ever worked fashion shows, so like,
Mhm.
but like being there as like a viewer and like seeing the collection, like it's just, I realized that like I truly just love fashion. Like I just fucking love it. And it just brings me so much joy and like it's so inspirational. I love like the like synthesis of like putting an outfit together. I love seeing like the creative directors like visions for not only like the collection but like the woman and the brand and like it's just like I loved Karl Lagerfeld too. Like I loved the like world building that he did. He was kind of
Mm,
problematic as a person, but like same thing with Galliano, problematic as a person, but like just their ability to like create these worlds that you can like immerse yourself in. It's like I feel like fashion is so much more, it's an art form, like for real. And but you can immerse yourself in this like fantasy and this world that like you can't necessarily do through like art alone, you know?
mhm. A few things that you said there that I agree with actually all of it. But a couple of things that I just want to pull out is firstly, I'm so happy you said that about fashion shows because I feel the exact same way. Like it's an energy that you can't really like explain, you have to experience it. And you
Yeah.
see so many people, I guess now we're in like the influencer age, you see so many people like acting like Fashion Week is passe and they're too cool for it and like, oh, it's just all people posing now to be seen. And there is an element of that, but there are still people that genuinely go to experience the show. And I
Yeah.
just feel like people have got really cynical and jaded about Fashion Week, and especially New York Fashion Week. Everyone's like, "Oh, New York Fashion Week is over. It's done."
No.
I'm like,
Oh
"It's
my God.
not." Not that I've
Here's
been,
a
but
list.
I look at the
Here's
shows
like
like,
I have a whole list of New York Fashion Week designers that I'm like so these all of these brands, like I am so excited to like email them and try and go. There's so much cool stuff coming out of New York. And anyone who says that
I
like New
agree.
York Fashion Week is dead, like because I feel like New York and London like don't get the credit they deserve. Everyone's always like Milan and like whatever.
London Fashion Week, obviously, I'm going to say is the best one.
Yeah.
But New York Fashion Week, like, I don't believe that it's dead. I think people are just being cynical
Oh.
and trying to be like above it and too cool for it. And I hate that mentality. I like love to be excited.
Like I'm very American right now. Like it's very like I feel like we're very I feel like Americans like Europeans have done the blasé thing like they were blasé 20 years ago, 15 years ago and now they're like earnest whereas Americans are now like okay, we've been like the earnest ones and we are like everyone thinks we're like losers and annoying. So we're just going to be like yeah, like we're just out like can't be bothered.
I just think Fashion Week is fun. I'm so excited. I'm not excited for how tiring it is, which is self-inflicted, so you just get over it. But I'm just really excited to go and see the shows and hopefully do some more interviewing this
Yeah,
season like I did some last time. But I love it. I live for it. Like, I'm glad you said that.
I
And
cannot
also talking about the Lagerfelds and Gallianos of the world, like it's so stressful when your favorites are so problematic. I feel the exact same way about them, but also about Deanna Vreeland. Like, I literally worship that woman, but she is so problematic.
I'm Jewish and hearing what Galliano said about Jews, like everyone has forgotten it. I will never forget it.
I have
I
not
literally
forgotten it.
remember that vivid memory is like seared into my
Mhm.
brain and I just like can't get past it. And like I can very much separate the art from the artist, but like, it's a shame that such brilliant ideas and such beautiful clothing come from such a like, you know, problematic person. And also, he's never apologized for it. He's like said he was drinking. He
Mhm.
said that he had like some bad behavior in the past, but he never explicitly said like,
Did you watch the documentary that came out
yeah, I
about?
did.
Whoa, see that I went into it thinking, okay, they're really going to try and like sell me down the river and like make me love him. I actually came out of that liking him less.
Hmm.
And I really, what the bit that I really didn't like was like all the damage control he was doing and how insincere it was afterwards, and like that really left a bad taste
It
in my
was
mouth.
very
And I am a
rehearsed.
big Galliano fan, but it's like you say, you have to be realistic about these people. It's like no one's perfect. I've met a lot of people in my personal life that are like him that do get on drugs and drunk and turn into like evil people. And
Yeah.
not to say that it's like a complete excuse because not everybody has that venom in them in the first place to come out. But it's scary to be around those types of people, and there's
Yeah.
normally a lot of other stuff going on. Not
Like
even,
if I got drunk, I that would never,
yeah,
like nothing of
yeah.
that milk would come out of my mouth. Like
Yeah,
it
but
just,
I say it to say that's probably the tip of the iceberg, and that just happens to be caught on camera because I've been around those types
exactly.
of people, and it's not just racist, it's like sexist, it's homophobic, it's
Fat
violent. Like, they're the
phobic.
people that are starting fights in the street. Like, and you really have to be careful with those character types.
I think also like fashion as a whole has this like because it's like I'm deriving inspiration from like this place and this place and it's like, there was like the Springbok were they YSL Springbok shoes? I forget what collection it was. Anyway, but like there's this colonialist, you have
Hmm.
these like white oftentimes men and then there are women too like but like the editors and they'll do like a Vogue editorial that's like inspired by like Africa and it's like a whole continent and it's like this is it's like some pastiche of like Yoruba culture and like animals. It's just very like bizarre. And then it's just, but like the borrowing, like Galliano always borrowed from like Chinese culture,
Hmm.
like Japanese culture. Even Pat McGrath is complicit because she's like doing the makeup, but I feel like she had like a more respectful.
She stayed in the books, like research wise,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. She was like, okay, I'm gonna reference like this like classic, whatever. But there's this like colonialist mindset, and it's like they get away with it because it's under the guise of it's art, it's their
Hmm.
creative process. But it's like at the end of the day, you're like stealing what you like from certain cultures and rejecting everything else, you
Yeah, I'm
know?
glad that like we're slowly moving away from that with the
Yeah.
new generations of designers. We're very slowly
Yeah.
moving to the world of like hiring those
Right.
people.
Interesting that we're talking about this because this is what I do for a living. Like I do photo shoots and like I'm the art director and I'm the one that's in charge of picking the team. And I always try to make sure that I'm picking like a diverse team.
Hmm.
Um, because otherwise you wind up with like you can run into these like first of all, it's like great to provide opportunities that like it's an otherwise closed industry. Like it's traditionally a very white industry. It's always great to get alternative perspectives and like whatever. But like you can wind up with images like Annie Leibovitz's where it's like the person isn't lit well, they're not retouched properly, their skin looks gray. Like
Hmm.
it just you have to like listen to other people. Like you can't just be like the it can't just be all white people being like, we know fashion, like this is fashion.
Yeah,
Like
I just really want to know like what is going on behind the scenes that keeps Annie Leibovitz like having everyone under the thumb. She must have some dirt on somebody that keeps her hired because.
it's just she's just like that. Like, well, first of all, also it's Anna. Anna and Annie are like,
Hmm.
but Anna really like has such a tight grip on Vogue that like I have friends that work there. Like Anna is in the office like date like she is in the weeds.
Uh-huh.
Like she like outsources it. Like it's Anna. So if Annie's doing something, Anna's approving it. So
Yeah.
it really is top down.
I just feel like there's some sort of like blackmailing situation or something.
Oh, there's someone's got dirt on someone. But they are giving Tyler Mitchell, like, who's like a young black photographer.
Hmm.
Tyler Mitchell's getting so many Vogue covers. And like,
Thank God.
I know.
Yeah, his
I feel
covers are
like
great.
but Annie's like, they always just do Annie. Oh my God.
If I see that backdrop that looks like the school picture backdrop one
Ah,
more time, honestly.
no.
Um, but let's end with something that's like on topic and that people can take something away from. I wanted to ask you, because obviously you have so much experience with shopping addiction, with the no buy, and with, re-regulating your habits and kind of like changing how you approach spending. I wanted to ask you what you think signs are for people that might think they have a shopping addiction. Like, what are the things to look out for?
Okay. So, hiding packages.
Hmm.
That was a big one. I'm actually going to film a video on this for Instagram later today. I filmed a video on this like for TikTok a while ago, but I had like a list, but it was like 8 signs that you have a shopping addiction. I think the first and foremost, it's hiding packages. That was like a telltale sign for me because it means that you're like ashamed of what you're buying. I think also like the frequency of what you're buying is something to be mindful of. Like it's not normal to get 2 to 3 packages a day. It's uh honestly not normal to get even like 2 to 3 packages of clothing a week. Um, I think like being mindful of the amount of stuff you're buying, like if you're kind of noticing you can't fit things in your closet. I think also like paying attention to how frequently you wear stuff. If you have like a closet full of clothes and you're not wearing any of it and you're like leaving the tags on, um, that could be a clear indicator. But then from a psychological perspective, like those are all behavioral. From a psychological perspective, if you find yourself having this like manic, almost manic, like urge to buy something, even if you don't know what that thing is, if you have this like strong, you're like, I just want to buy something, that's you seeking out a dopamine hit. That's not like you wanting something. It's like a lot deeper than that. It's like you have this like craving just to buy something. I think also like if you're willing to kind of like incur financial harm, like that's usually a good indication. Um, there are definitely like signs, but like for me, like the writing was on the wall for everyone else. It was not apparent to me. So I think a lot of times it's hard for us to recognize these things in ourselves. But like definitely that like addictive mentality around shopping. Like if you're craving a purchase, even if you don't know what that purchase is, that's usually like a telltale sign.
That's really helpful for people, I feel like, to actually be a bit reflective and just check that they're not
Yeah. And if
Honestly,
you
feel
have
so.
those things, it doesn't necessarily mean you have a shopping addiction, but it's like those were the warning signs for me.
Yeah, and even if it isn't a full-blown addiction, it's just not great habits to even be in. So
Yeah.
I
It's
just
also
wanted
really
to,
funny because it's like people are always like, what's the line with addiction? Like when, if you had all the money in the world, would you shop the way that you used to shop? Like, yeah, I probably would. I feel like it's like when, I feel like what defines it is like, if you're, it's the financial harm. So if you have like the means, I feel like people might not necessarily realize that they're like over consuming,
yeah,
because it's
true.
not causing financial harm.
Very true. I guess it's all relative to your whole
Right.
lifestyle.
Right.
Well, thank you for sharing all that with me. I
Uh,
had a great time getting to know a bit more about you.
mhm.
Is there any parting words you want to leave us with?
Uh, Follow me on Instagram. No,
Oh,
I'm
and
doing
also
YouTube.
hire Alicia, please, somebody.
Yeah, hire me. I do photo shoots. I'm an art director, I'm a creative director. I have years of experience in fashion. No, you know, if you're on this journey and you are trying to do a no buy and you mess up, don't beat yourself up because it's normal and it's part of the process and nobody's perfect, but recovery is possible and you can pull through. I did it. So if I can do it, anyone can. I was in really deep.
Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. And I don't know what, and that's it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And if I'm ever in London, I'll give you a call.
Definitely.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.